Singapore is often seen as a city that values greenery. But protecting trees is not just about stopping them from being cut down. It also means understanding the landscape around them. This report starts with a simple question. Is legal protection alone enough for long-term tree conservation? This study suggests no. Legal boundaries alone are not enough. Legal boundaries can prevent direct removal, but they cannot shield trees from edge effects outside the line. When nearby vegetation is reduced, protected trees face more heat, wind, and other environmental stress. That is why this report looks at both tree conservation areas and the canopy around them. Singapore's tree conservation area scheme is a key tool for protecting mature urban trees. These areas are legally protected and remain part of Singapore's green heritage, but a protected area's value depends on both the trees inside it and the surrounding landscape. This report assesses how well the surrounding landscape supports Singapore's 2 tree conservation areas. It also identifies nearby segments where canopy reinforcement may be needed most. In other words, the study asks whether surrounding landscapes can still function to support protected trees over time. To do this, the study examines 2 buffer rings around each tree conservation area: 0 to 500 meters and 500 to 1,000 meters. Those buffers are then split into planning area segments, creating 36 segments for analysis. Using Sentinel-02 imagery in Google Earth Engine, the study measures canopy conditions at the surrounding landscape scale. The framework has 2 main dimensions. The first is buffer support. It reflects how much nearby vegetation supports the protected area. The second is landscape risk. It reflects how fragmented and poorly connected that vegetation is. These combine into a buffer vulnerability index, where higher values mean weaker surrounding canopy support. The main finding is that different scales reveal 2 different pictures. At the island-wide level, tree cover stayed relatively stable between 2019 and 2025, with slight positive change. In broad national terms, there was no major decline in vegetation cover during the study period. But around the tree conservation areas, the picture was different. Across the 36 buffer segments, mean vulnerability increased over time. So landscapes around the TCAs became more vulnerable, even while national canopy stayed broadly stable. A key conclusion is this. National greening trends can hide local vulnerability around protected areas. The report also finds that rising vulnerability is linked more to fragmentation than to canopy loss alone. That matters because it changes how we should intervene. If the issue were only too few trees, the response could simply be planting more. But when vegetation is fragmented and isolated, the response must be more targeted. So connectivity matters as much as canopy amount. The spatial pattern of results reinforces this. Higher vulnerability segments clustered in the south and southeast of the central TCA, including downtown core, Singapore River, Rochor, and Kowloon. Lower vulnerability segments were more common in the north and west, including Bukit Panjang and central water catchment. This uneven pattern shows that surrounding landscape support varies by location. Some protected areas have stronger surrounding canopy conditions. Others are more exposed to fragmented, weaker vegetation. A useful outcome of the report is that it distinguishes different types of surrounding landscape weakness. Some areas, like downtown core, have very sparse vegetation. There, the priority is basic canopy recovery. Other areas, like Bishan and Tanglin, still have vegetation, but it is fragmented. There, the priority is improving continuity and reducing fragmentation. And in areas like Bukit Panjang, canopy conditions appear relatively healthy. There, the priority is monitoring and maintenance. This makes the framework useful because it supports different recommendations for different conditions. It shifts us from broad environmental concern to targeted planning action. It shows where canopy recovery is needed, where fragmentation should be reduced, and where good conditions should be protected. Overall, national canopy stayed broadly stable, but landscapes around tree conservation areas were more uneven and sometimes grew more vulnerable. The broader message is clear. Protecting trees also means supporting the surrounding landscape. For planning, this gives a targeted way to identify where canopy reinforcement is most needed and what type of intervention each segment requires. Thank you for your attention. We appreciate your time and interest in protecting Singapore's tree conservation areas.